Hello and welcome to the analysis of iCAT25. This is the last mock in our 25 mock test series at an all India level for CAT this year. So as serious candidates, a lot of you would have attempted all 24. Some of you might have reached 20, some might have done only 15, while some might have done only 5-6 mocks. That is not such a big problem as long as you're analyzing yourself, identifying where you're going right and wrong, and seeing how you can improve. As a last minute step at this stage, you can try iCAT25 if you do not have too much time to practice too many mocks, as we've tried to make it as close as possible to the actual CAT that I took last year. So I cannot say that it is similar to all the questions that students saw, but this is a lot on the lines of the questions that I faced as a student last year in the CAT exam. How was this mock? What we do is that each mock has a different difficulty level calibrated to each section, and we give you all of these various combinations so that you are exposed to any combination that might appear in the exam. This mock was classified as an easy to moderate or basically moderate mock with an average difficulty level of close to 1.9. Generally, the actual mock was slightly tougher than this. I would say slightly as in very slightly tougher than this. So this has been calibrated at this level just to give you the confidence at the end stage that yes, you are on the right track. However, the difference between the two is not really large. With an average LOD of 1.92, this can be called a moderate mock. What does LOD mean? As I've said all throughout, we assign a difficulty level of 1 to 3 to each question basing on whether it's easy, moderate or tough. That translates into an average difficulty level over a section or even over a mock. Let's look at the verbal section first. Compared to the last two mocks where you had simpler verbal sections, here it was more or less at par with what you can expect in CAT with an average difficulty level of close to 1.95. Again, in terms of the RC breakup, we went back to the old CAT formula plus what we had given you in the earlier mocks where you had 2 RCs of 6 questions and 4 of 3 questions. In the last 2 mocks, we had given you a variant where you had 3 RCs of 6 questions and 2 of 3 questions. So here it was a 4 plus 2 formula once again. What was the kind of skewness or distribution of the difficulty levels of these RCs? If you see, there were 2 easy to moderate RCs as you can expect in CAT, 1 moderate to tough RC and the rest were all moderate. So this kind of even distribution is what you can expect in most exams including CAT, NMAT, etc. So which were the RCs that you should have attempted? There was one RC on nepotism, which was the longer 6 question RC. This is something you should have definitely tried in the exam. Easy questions, easy topic. Again, there was an RC on the dodo tree of Mauritius. Factual topic. The questions were also relatively easy, but this was a 3 question RC. Again, this could have been tried. The only problem that both these RCs were towards the second half of the section rather than the beginning. If I look at the beginning of this section, the first 2 RCs were actually on the tougher side. The first one was on intolerance, topic under discussion recently, but tough topic as far as the RC was concerned. The second one was on bionics. Now this is something that would have appealed only to people with a grasp or interest in science and technology. So again, this might have been a tough topic for some people. The remaining 2 were on HIV and classic literature. So here if you see, there were 2 topics which could be called reasonably easy to read, while the rest were slightly more dense, which means that selection of RCs here would have been paramount. As far as I am concerned, I would have taken the 2 easiest ones, that is the one on nepotism and the one on the dodo tree. Definitely attempted them. I would have possibly gone for the one on HIV because it was slightly easier compared to bionics or literature, and it had 6 questions, so the chances of getting more marks increased. These 3 would have been my major attempts as far as RCs are concerned. Out of the 15 questions available across these 3 RCs, I might have been able to attempt say 12 or 13, but that would have been a good show. Moving to the non-RCs, we had the usual breakup in terms of para summary, para jumbles and contextual odd man out. However, the easiest questions here surprisingly were the contextual odd man out questions, whereas the jumbled sentences were the toughest. So this was one small variation that we introduced to just surprise you in the exam. The para summary was more or less moderate. In general, I would say you could have attempted 3 to 4 questions here if you focused on para summary and the contextual odd man out and identified the easy jumbled sentences. In general, 3 to 4 attempts in non-RC, 12 to 13 attempts in the RCs, 16 attempts overall as far as verbal goes would be a good performance. Let's now move on to the next section, that's DILR. Typically the toughest section in the exam, also the toughest section as far as this mock is concerned. Now, was it the toughest of all the DILR sections that we've released so far? No. But it was more or less at par with the exam. Now, in the exam, we typically tell students that you should attempt 4 to 5 questions. Very often, students are not able to attempt more than 2 or 3 sets. Why is that? Because of question selection. So here we identified that there were at least 4 to 5 sets that could have been attempted and a student could have reached 18 questions easily. But with a little bit of effort, 20 was also possible. So which were those questions that he should have done? There was a matrix question where you had some grouping involved in terms of Mercury, Venus and Jupiter. Time consuming, but yes, this should have been done. The second one was a missing table, a numerical type question on the chits numbered in permutations of 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Again time consuming, but should have been done. The third one that I would have done was a missing table on a chess tournament. Time consuming, full marks, please attempt. The next one, numerical logic, where you had boys running on 6 parallel tracks. You form a table, spend time, get full marks. So the common thread running through all these topics or all these sets was that if you selected it, you should not have left them halfway. Had you been diligent enough, had you put in say 15 minutes, then 15 minutes per set would also be fine, or 12 minutes per set would also be fine. These 4 could have got you full marks each, and that would have been an extremely good performance. There was a 5th set which was technically very easy, but generally because of the nature of the topic it would have ended up scaring most people. There was a set on a murder that happened and which was the murder weapon and who was the murderer. So there were a lot of statements and you had to apply logical conditions and see which one was right. So it was easy to get lost in that data, but if you were to ask me, technically speaking, it was probably the easiest set in the whole mock. So if you were to able to isolate data and identify it correctly, this is something you could have done very well. This particular set also illustrates that something that looks very difficult need not always be difficult. And this would have been my ace in the whole kind of a set. I would have tried to, had I been not very comfortable, I would have tried to focus on the top 4 that I mentioned. If possible, I would have done this 5th one and got 5 sets right. 18 to 20 attempts would have been extremely good, but 16 was a bare minimum required for this mock. Finally, let's move to quant, the easiest section of this mock as well as of the actual CAT. If you take this, if you appeared for CAT 2010, 11, 12, etc. and if you come back and take this mock and I tell you that it's similar to CAT, you will be very surprised as to where CAT has gone. But if you see the CAT quant section in the last 2 years, it has actually become easy if you are able to find the right questions. I have been able to attempt close to 23 questions in both years on a very comfortable basis. In this mock, the average difficulty was close to 1.6, 1.62. So it was definitely an easy section. 20 attempts is what I would have tried, but for now let's first try and identify which were the easiest questions. So there were anywhere around 15 questions that we marked as easy. Now if 15 out of 34 are easy, they'll be scattered more or less throughout the paper. Every second or third question is probably going to be easy. So there, my analysis is not really where the chunks of easy questions are. My analysis really shifts to which topics were they distributed. So if I look at these 15 questions, if you just give me a minute, I can very easily tell you that 4 of them were from arithmetic, 4 from algebra, and the rest from geometry and modern math. So like one of the earlier papers where I had a lot of easy questions, there was a very equal distribution of easy questions across the 4 broad areas: arithmetic, algebra, geometry and modern math. Which means that leaving out any one area would have reduced your chances to get a better score. That is why I keep saying all the time over the last few mocks, they try and have at least basic competency in all the areas so that you can try and target the easy questions. Here these questions were a lot more focused in terms of the basic concepts and basic principles. So if they were strong, these 15 questions were definite must-dos. Apart from these, there were some other questions that you could have attempted with some effort. 20 questions were doable, 19 would have been a great attempt. On the whole, I would say that this mock was very similar to what you could encounter in CAT, because it was more or less a replica of the CAT 2016 paper in my slot. Characterized by a moderate verbal section, a tough DILR section and an easy quant section. Question selection would have been the key. The number of good attempts in each of these sections would have been close to 16, 16 and 20. In general, I would say anywhere around 50 to 52 attempts would have been a good performance. A good student at this stage could even have gone and crossed 55 attempts. Please remember that when we keep talking of attempts, we are always looking at an accuracy of close to 85 to 90%. Keep these pointers in mind. All these analyses are meant to help you work more on question selection and identifying the right questions to attempt. You can always use your shortcuts, the knowledge and the formulae that you have to solve these questions and devise the best approach. Wish you all the very best for CAT. Do well. You can subscribe to our channel to watch more videos of this type and have a look at our webinars to get a better idea of all the strategy tips that we have for CAT over the last few days. Wish you all the very best. Thank you.